Many people have asked that, especially people who have noticed that plugs holes in them. Let's ask everyone's begrudgingly favorite search engine.
Why? Fuck a duck.
DevOps, SRE, IT operations teams troubleshoot faster with the new infrastructure monitoring experience. Analyze everything your infrastructure touches, related entities, logs, events, alerts, network metrics, and more. All in context, powered by a unified experience.
Tonight, the countdown begins in Florida. The last undecided Senate race for the year finally nearing its close.
I need you to show up in this election. Are you ready to win this election? If you hadn't voted, you have to vote.
The matchup between incumbent Democrat Randall Warnock and Republican challenger Herschel Walker broke turnout records despite the state's new election law reducing the number of early voting days. The runoff drew long lines across the state, with more than 1.8 million Georgians already casting their ballots. High school students voting for the first time. And the stakes were so high, Democrats gained control of the Senate, but hoped to widen their margin. A win for Republicans would slow down President Biden's agenda and give the GOP a leg up in 2024. Today, both candidates making their final push.
We just got to get out of the vote. It's time to have our voices heard and our vote counted. But listen, your vote is your voice.
Record voting so far in the early voting. Ellen Lopez joins us now. Ellen, with this 2 days ago, it really looks like this is anyone's race. That's right, Lindsay. It's a tight race, and it's not quite over yet. A month ago, election day, Republicans came out in larger numbers than Democrats, and officials here say they expect a good turnout on Tuesday.
Hi everyone, George Checking Office here. Thanks for checking out ABC News YouTube channel. To get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts.
Live in Atlanta in this visual evening debrief. Our top story tonight is right here in Georgia. A showdown in the South on Tuesday as Georgia voters head to the polls in the general election with the final seat in the U.S. Senate at stake. Democratic incumbent Raphael Warnock facing Republican challenger Herschel Walker. Although Democrats have already secured control of the Senate, this final seat is still important for a few reasons. First off, in a 50-50 Senate, committees must share power. But a win for Warnock would put Democrats in charge of all committees, giving them more power to investigate whatever they want. If Republicans win, they'll get a say on what investigations or hearings will happen. A Republican win would also make it easier to block legislation from the Democrats and initiatives and judicial nominees by President Biden. And it's evident Georgia voters realize what's at stake. So far, nearly 1.9 million votes have been cast. The state broke early voting records 3 times this past week, with the highest single-day turnout on Friday, when more than 353,000 votes were cast. Georgia has already broken the record for absentee votes in a midterm runoff, with more ballots still out. But with those shattered records came long lines at polling places. Some precincts reporting wait times upwards of 2 hours. A much different picture from early voting during midterms last month, when the average wait time was about 2 minutes. But some voters said the lines didn't deter them.
I had 2 hours. It was worth the wait.
What brought me out today is about change and the direction in which our country is heading.
I got here at 7:15, and it took me about 40 minutes to vote. My wife said she's going to sleep in and vote later. It's going to take her over 2 hours.
This is the first runoff since Georgia's new voting law took effect, which in part shortened the runoff period. It now requires only 5 days of in-person early voting in the week before Election Day. Georgia's Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger has been at the helm of the state's elections since 2019. Since then, he's overseen several changes to the election process and infrastructure. But as you may recall, in 2020, he came into the national spotlight after the presidential election when former President Donald Trump and his allies spread false claims about widespread voter fraud in Georgia. Trump even calling the secretary and asking him to, quote, find votes in a now infamous phone call. Raffensperger and his team, all Republicans, stood up against Trump, conducted a full audit, and disproved the claims. This year, he won re-election by the largest margin of victory in any of Georgia's midterm races. Secretary Brad Raffensperger joins us now to talk more about the Senate runoff and election integrity. Mr. Secretary, thank you so much for your time this evening. I imagine it is a very busy couple of days for you. So let's jump right in.
It will be Tuesday morning, 7 a.m. for sure.
Let's jump right in there. The midterm election in November and this runoff are the first truly big tests of Georgia's new voter law that was signed by Governor Kemp in 2021. As we just mentioned, we saw record single-day turnout for early voting in the midterms. Then again this past week, shattering records on Monday, Tuesday, and then again on Friday. The big difference in the runoff, though, much longer lines. So is this partly because of the shortened runoff period under the new law? And do you foresee these wait times being an issue on Election Day?
Well, it's a combination of issues. But for example, in Fulton County, they began the early voting period with 13 less precincts than they had for early voting during the fall election, things like that. And when it's compressed into 6 days or 7 days if you had Saturday and Sunday voting, then that just, obviously could exacerbate the issue. But going back to November and the early voting of 17 days we had, people generally by and large moved through there with not too many lines. But what we're really seeing is that more Georgians prefer to vote early as opposed to Election Day or through the no excuse absentee voting. So going forward, we'll look at and work with the General Assembly and the counties on what we need to do, maybe perhaps no gaps for making sure we have enough precincts open for early voting.
That being said, I've seen some examples of people waiting, 1-2 hours to vote, which is a very long time. So what is your message to people who left polling places without voting altogether because of these long lines? And what's your response to those who say this could be a form of voter suppression?
Well, state law requires lines to be shorter than 1 hour on Election Day. So the big test will be this coming Tuesday, just like it was when we had Tuesday in November. We had Tuesday in November, the average wait time at about 1 o'clock when I screenshot it was 3 minutes. It actually got down to 2 minutes. Longest wait time we had anywhere statewide about 14 minutes. All the precincts will be open for early voting, voting on Election Day this coming Tuesday. And so we're prepared for big numbers. And numbers should be no more than what we saw back in November. So I think the counties will be able to handle it again since all the precincts will be open.
So in the past two general elections, 2018 and 2020, the final results for the U.S. Senate have hinged on runoffs in Georgia. Just two states, Georgia and Louisiana. Those are the only two that require a runoff if no candidate gets 50% of the vote in the general election. I would imagine some voters feeling some apathy, being a little fatigued with the whole going back to the polls once again a month later. So, do you think Georgia should rethink these runoffs, considering the amount of time, money, and resources it takes to conduct them?
Un jour, on se retrouvera ensemble sur un plateau de tournage.
Alors selon moi, ce qu'on fait ici, Hollywood, c'est du grand art. C'est...
Si tu pouvais aller où tu veux dans le monde entier, où tu restes.
J'ai toujours voulu faire partie de quelque chose de plus grand.
Ouais.
On tourne. Quelque chose qui mieux, qui a un véritable sens. Quand je suis arrivé à Los Angeles,
J'ai fait tatouer ton visage sur mon dos.
c'est ce qui était affiché sur toutes les portes. Pas de chien ni d'acteur. Et c'est moi qui ai fait changer ça. Bonjour, j'ai un projet pour toi. Je peux tout faire.
C'est l'enculard qui nous a envoyé du enculés.
Cette soutien plus merde envoyé constamment mon espace. Et de ta carte sur ses mamelons, oublie-moi de ta robe. Je l'ai mis sur mes mamelons, c'est naturel. Que diriez-vous qu'on fasse mon autre plan tout de suite?
Comment envisagez-vous votre avenir?
On ne m'a jamais empêché de regarder.
Si vous marchez la réalité, c'est un coup de théâtre. Wow! Elle a l'air bien nouvelle.
Elle l'est. Il est loin de se douter que ça va se finir comme avec les autres. Les gens sont plus sensibles. Ils se préoccupent de moi.
Toute ma vie, j'ai rien fait d'autre que de décevoir le monde qui m'entoure. Et j'y suis arrivée par moi-même, sans mon aide. Un jour, on se retrouvera ensemble sur un plateau de tournage.
Ce que je fais est important.
Ça vous dépasse.
Et je vais me coucher.
Well, I'm sure that the General Assembly would like to look at different options. I know that for the overseas UOCAMA, the military balance primarily, that was used instant runoff for that arrangeless voting system. That worked well. And then other people have talked about years gone past that it was a plurality of over 45%, things like that. I think the General Assembly will look at that thoughtfully and see what is the best way going forward. Does the period need to be extended, or do we need to make sure there's actually more precincts that are open for early voting to make sure we can handle, the flush of voters? The challenge that you have, you should be really prepared for it best you can, because you never really know who's going to show up. It's not like a tee-up time or open table where people reserve their time, and so that's sometimes gives county a bit of a jam because they don't know who's going to show up for early voting. But come Tuesday, the county's already be prepared to keep lines short in 1 hour. They know who's voting early, so they know what's the potential. And in November, like I said, the longest wait time was 14 or 16 minutes. Average wait time was as low as 2 minutes. And that's the mark that we're going to hold them to keep those lines short in 1 hour this coming Tuesday.
You had mentioned ranked choice voting. That is a system that is used in Alaska. They don't have runoffs. There is a delay upon getting the results from the election, but you won't have the situation where you have voters being just tired of the process. Is that something that you would endorse if it made its way through the Georgia legislature?
But we're going to take a deep dive in that. We really want to have the legislators look at all the different options. So there'll be lots of discussions, and what type of peer-reviewed studies are out there. And so we'll look at all options. And we just want to make sure that we keep honest, safe, and accurate election process. And some of the mechanics of how that occurs, that is really up to the General Assembly. At the end of the day, we want to make sure that we can identify who that runner is, and there be no question about who that person is.
Of course, in 2020, Georgia became ground zero for election denialism. We saw it this time around as well. 2 years later, Donald Trump, many Republican candidates and their supporters, they're still perpetuating those falsehoods. You, however, have pushed back. What is your message to those election deniers who continue to question the integrity of elections?
Well, I think we've shown conclusively that in Georgia, we have honest and fair elections. We have, with our city ballot process, we have photo ID, just like we have photo ID for if you show up early or on election day. So you know that who that voter is, it's enhanced security, and that elevates voter confidence. We have now 17 days early voting during the normal general election period. We've had 5 to 7 days before the runoff period. People know that their vote will be accurately counted. And then we audit. When we audited the race that we had for my race, actually, we wanted a statewide race. We had to audit that by state law. Now, we are going to be asking the counties to audit the senatorial race just so we have that information to give back to voters. Here's what the machine said. Here's what the vote totals are. And so we have, it all lining up so you know that we had an accurate race. At the end of the day, I understand that, it's going to be very close. And that's why it's very important that people know we have accurate and fair elections in Georgia.
I want to talk about your book, Integrity Counts. You detailed your personal background, your time in office leading up to 2020, and then, of course, that phone call with President Trump that we just talked about. But you ended your book with your hopes for the future and your thoughts on what needs to happen to restore trust in the election process. And your solution points to a deeper moral problem, not only in American politics, but in American society. Can you talk more about what you had to say?
Well, I really said at the end of the day, what we should be looking for, and the people that are running for office, what they should exhibit is really character, integrity, the ability to have civil discourse, to talk to people on both sides of the aisle, and to quote Ronald Reagan, to speak kindly. I think that's really what people are looking for. They want us to, to really get the job done, to be results-oriented, results-focused. And so that's the most important thing is put the people first, truly put the people first. I think once you get done, that really benefits all Americans.
Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, I know it's a busy time for you, and we really do appreciate you making some time for us this evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Less than 2 years, y'all see where we at today? That's because the Senator Warnock, his vote that he been giving out. Less than 2 years, this is where we at. He's asking you to give it 6 more years. Can we put up the 6 more years of this?
This is not about right and left. This is about the difference between right and wrong. I believe in my soul that Georgia knows that Georgia is better than Herschel Walker.
Here to Senator running up on Tuesday with a South Carolina roundtable led by Chris Christian, John Brazil, Julie Page, AP's executive editor, and Washington Post director Julie Mariana Mayor. Welcome to you all. Julie, let me begin with you. We all predict elections at our peril these days, but it does appear in these final couple of days that Raphael Warnock has some momentum in Georgia.
There's certainly a sense that this runoff race in Georgia is starting to edge towards Democrats. Obviously, Georgia is a very close state right now, but I think a couple dynamics that have been moving in the Democrats' favor. One is the fact that this is not anymore the decisive election for control of the Senate. That was taken care of in the November election, and so I think that's taken a little bit of the energy out of the sails of Republicans who were really hoping that they could energize their voters. The other thing is just looking at these early vote numbers. You don't want to overread it too much because obviously Republicans tend to vote in larger numbers on election day, but Democrats are hitting their markers, particularly in areas of Georgia where they have strong representation from Black voters. That's giving them a little more confidence going into Tuesday.
Democrats have done a lot of practice this time.
Reverend Warnock is running like a quarterback who understands how to run that ball into the end zone. Herschel Walker disappeared for almost 4 days during the Thanksgiving holiday when people were focused and they were preparing to go out and vote early. So I do believe that Reverend Warnock will be able to score this time, win decisively, and why not? I mean, this really is about confidence and character. And Reverend Warnock has shown that he's head and shoulders above Mr. Walker.
Governor Kemp trying to tell Herschel Walker over the border.
He would be the first human being who ever dragged Herschel Walker over the goal line. And look, Brian Kemp, we talked about this a few weeks ago, right? Brian Frank, and people wondered whether he would go all in or not. He has. With his staff, he's been out there personally campaigning for Walker. Now, it's different, as you know, George, than him being at the top of the ballot. And so some of that is transferable, but maybe not all. But I think it's going to be very close. These sorts of elections have been very close. I think it will be close. I agree with you that Warnock appears to have momentum. And let's face it, he came into this with a lead from election night, right? So Walker's got ground to make up. And I think Julie is right that what hurts the Republicans the most is you can't argue now this is for control. If it was for control, some people who have some misgivings about Herschel Walker will probably be willing to abandon those in order to prevent Democrats from getting control. But now that control is not up, I think they may hurt Republicans turn out a little bit.
Mariana, the stakes are lower, but there is a difference between 50 and 51.
There is, and you have actually seen a number of surveys going out there trying to make that distinction. It is a little bit hard to explain, but Obama really driving home, okay, this is what happens when you have 51 votes. You don't have to listen to Republicans about who you can subpoena. It really does help on committee assignments as well, because Democrats will be able to have more say and literal physical representation in those committees. And then you have someone like Ted Cruz who's going out there for Warnock saying, hey, I'm sitting on the Judiciary Committee. I don't want more Democrats on there. So it's not necessarily the most interesting subject to talk about, but surrogates are out there trying to say it does matter.
Voters, it's not going to
No,
You know, I mean, I get it, and I understand the importance of it. I've been a governor with the Democratic legislature. I understand all that, but voters in general, in a runoff, are going to go.
One of the things they may be getting, Donald Trump in the last 3 weeks, between the midterms and the runoff, announced he's running for president, meets with Fuente, meets with Kanye West, is what they're calling now, right? Whatever. And then last night comes out for suspending the Constitution Act. I ask you a version of this question all the time. I don't understand why it's so difficult to come out against someone who's for it and the Constitution.
Well, obviously, neither do I, and I think, you know, look, this has been the most uninspiring Republican presidential announcement since Fred Thompson. I mean, like, everybody had this anticipation he's going to announce. Nothing has happened since then except bad things for Donald Trump because he is being his post-2020 election untethered self. It should not be hard to say that the 2020 election is over. It should not be hard to say, no, I don't favor a revote. I don't favor the true winner, as he put it, being put into office by some extra constitutional act. This is what kills my party right now, is this conversation this morning. We're not talking about issues that American people care about. You and I are sitting here talking about this. And we, as a party, need to have this open family argument in the public about whether this is the way we need to go as a party. And, you know, we need to have an argument, we need to have it now.
Chris, you need a backbone to have that conversation. You had a backbone when you condemned what happened during that dinner in Mar-a-Lago. You did it. No one else in your party. It took them a week to get the message that Donald Trump, the standard bearer of the Republican Party, was sitting down with a known anti-Semite and you, another known anti-Semite. And, you know, it took days after you made that courageous statement for others to follow. So, no, without a backbone, Donald Trump is going to continue to pull the strings of the Republican Party, and he's going to continue to be the face of the Republican Party. And only a toxic dictator, a would-be dictator, would say we're going to suspend the Constitution. Doesn't make sense.
Now that it is Kevin McCarthy, Richard Nate Stover on Kevin McCarthy, we cover Congress every single day. How's that playing out?
Republicans are really nervous just because they don't know how it's going to play out. And if you ask them, they say anyone who tells you, McCarthy has it or he doesn't know. And there is time for these 5 or so. They won't say, they keep saying, we're recruiting someone or, there's someone in the shadows. Well, they have time to be able to find someone, but no one wants to lead a majority of just 4 or 5 votes because it's going to be difficult. And, I've actually been talking to a couple of moderates like Joyce who say it's actually good to see McCarthy trying to convene all of the different factions within the Republican conference because they were also worried seeing him in the minority leaning too far right and, not denouncing some of the voices that, were actually hanging out with Nick Fuentes in the conference itself. So they really are looking at this as, okay, this is a test for McCarthy too, to bring all of us together, try and hash it out early. But again, there are just people in the Republican conference who just don't like McCarthy because get any concession possible. They just don't like it. At the same time, if McCarthy is going to clear to a seat, and I agree, I think this idea of you can't be somebody with nobody is kind of where Republicans are right now. If he crosses to a seat, he is going to have made so many promises to some of those conservative, really far right lawmakers around particularly the investigations.
And they want the ability to recall them at any moment.
Exactly. He would have made so many concessions to them that his ability to do much, to Chris's point, to be able to actually take action on issues, real things that the American public wants, to be able to make that argument going into the 2024 election is going to be just extremely limited.
No one else wants to do that.
Well, I think, listen, you're making some other people quietly look in the mirror in the morning and see a speaker in the House, but no one else is looking at that mirror and seeing a speaker. McCarthy is the leading candidate because, let's face it, give Kevin some credit. When he took over as the leader, they were in the minority. He won seats in 2020 when no one expected they would, and they won enough seats to get a majority this time. So, nobody else was doing that heavy lifting. I saw the work Kevin McCarthy did across the country. The guy was on an airplane more than he was on his feet. People do remember those things. So in the end, they're going to vote for McCarthy. How much he's going to be able to get done is going to be up to two things. One, how well he's able to maneuver inside that room. And two, what the Democrats do. Because sometimes the opposition can make it easy to unite you. So see what they do, or whether they make it hard or easy. And then Team Jeffries is going to have some big decisions as a new leader to make. And I think a lot of people in the Democratic side are going to appreciate Nancy Pelosi more than they did. That's not a knock on Hakeem, but it is that she had a lot of experience dealing with herding those cats. And, it's going to be a difficult job.
Kevin is a walking salesperson. He's going out, promising committee assignments, promising to investigate. The problem is Republican caucus has a split personality. You have a huge chunk, the Freedom Caucus, they want to do a lot of oversight, a lot of investigation. They're not looking at passing legislation. They're trying to embarrass the president. Here's what I suspect. Those 7 or 9 members in the House GOP caucus that won in Biden districts that President Biden carried in 2020, they're going to be hell-bent to look for compromises with Democrats. So I think Kevin will have to talk to Hakeem a lot to get some votes down.
And take us inside these deliberations again. The party to change the primary calendar of South Carolina now proposed to be first the calendar tailor-made for Joe Biden.
When I walked into our informal dinner and the president, I haven't gotten a letter like this from the president in a long time. He laid out his principles. And George, I might have walked into that room thinking, the calendar should start perhaps in another state. But when the president laid out such an important agenda for us, that it was very difficult to counter the president's proposal. So yes, we're going to extend this petition that we have given to our New Hampshire for as long as I can recall to additional states.
Just explain to everybody what the first month is now going to look like if this proposal.
If this proposal, we are going to grant waivers to allow 5 states to go before the window, which is Super Tuesday, March 5th. 20 states apply, 17 were under consideration, 5 states. That includes February 3rd, starting the great state of South Carolina, followed by the next Tuesday with Nevada and New Hampshire, and then followed by Michigan and then Georgia. So 4 out of the 5 states are battleground states. And I do believe that this tradition that allows voters to look under the hood, check the tires of these candidates, I think the voters in South Carolina will do a remarkable job.
Do you think there was proof that it could create some difficult things for Republicans?
Well, I don't think the Republicans could change for it. I haven't heard anybody say in the aftermath of what the DNC has proposed that, either we're in a tough spot or we're going to change. I think you're going to see the traditional calendar. And let's face it, we've heard from the 2 United States senators from New Hampshire that they are going to do everything they can to make sure that New Hampshire is first. And they're going to do whatever they need to do to move that date and do whatever.
It's state law.
That's right. It's state law that they have to be first. And if you go to New Hampshire, as we all have at one time or another, it is part of your first grade education. We're first. So I think Republicans are probably going to stay right with the calendar the way it's been with, Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada, and South Carolina, and then everybody else coming up behind the Super Tuesday. I don't see the Republicans changing.
Well, the Republicans are going to have a leadership fight. My fellow guy is going to run against Mr. Sanders. So whatever going on in the Republican Party. We don't know because you guys are still trying to sort it out.
I know that
You are in another autopsy.
I know that
Autopsy.
on some days you like to do a little betting on it. Do yourself a favor. No matter what the odds are, don't bet on the Montezuma guy. It's not gonna happen.
But Mariana, you agree that some of we saw a lot of Democrats were reluctant to come out and George Bush running for president in 2024. I've seen definitely you guys portray to the possibility.
And right before the election, one of the questions we had was just the assumption was Democrats were going to lead the state in Congress. And there were already a lot of Democrats privately saying, man, if that happens, it is in part because of Biden's fault. Complete 180, right? Because Democrats were able to hold on, especially in these swing seats. The opposite is true. That doesn't mean that there aren't people who are calling for new leadership. You have heard that and you just saw that demonstrated with House Democrats when Pelosi stepped down. She knew there were not enough votes for her to stay on. However, Democrats are, just like Jeffrey said, backing Biden, saying, you know what, his agenda we helped pass. It helped us win when we were talking about it in these swing districts. And that's what we need to continue to run out to maintain that majority.
And this week county was the most solid indication yet that he wants to still change his mind.
He absolutely still changed his mind. He is laying the groundwork for a run. And I think in some ways, the story of the Biden presidency is becoming exceeding low expectations. He did it in the 2020 election. He's actually done it over the last few years before he's been able to get to the Congress. And then certainly, I think coming out of these midterms, where Democrats did far better than expected. And again, he's doing that groundwork for a run.
That's all we have time for right now. Thank you all very much. Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.
Investiguer habitant dans l'esprit permet de faire rapidement et facilement des découvertes. Si vous souhaitez de fournir un petit échantillon de salive, vous leur envoyer sur la boîte d'expédition PUPPYCAM. Vous recevrez un lien vers vos résultats en ligne qui seront faciles à partager. Découvrez vos origines et retrouvez de la famille biologique. Obtenez la découverte en cadeau grâce à ancestry.ca.
In America, I'm your host, Cleveland Mayor from Houston. In 2020, Georgia decided to balance the power of the United States Senate, and it might delegate the state could not be higher. Be as high as star, anchor, WNBC here in the land, and some land anchored by 5 Atlanta, will honor the United States. We are joined by a live studio audience. They agree to hold their ears to the pause. Now, again, we also welcome our viewers across the country walk watching on the state. And over here in Georgia, we're working on 5 Amazon stations in several parts of the state across the state. Before we get started with tonight's topic, the rules. There's a warning. Mr. Walker, you will be asking seconds for opening and 50 seconds. Question. If there's a follow-up or rebuttal, we'll have 30 seconds. When time's up, you'll hear this back. Each candidate will also have 50 seconds for a closing statement. And with that, it is time to get underway. It is up before it moves. Leila, thank you very much for your warm-up. Walker, giving me the appreciate you being here. Tonight. And for those of you at home that are following along, we'd like for you to use the hashtag GASN.
Good to see you as well, gentlemen. We began tonight
with opening statements apart from determining who will go first. Mr. Walker, we will begin with you. You have 60 seconds.
First, I like to acknowledge my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And I come to you overrated the right to avoid. Not only I'm talking about faith, benefits, education, and the rest of country. We're also talking about a good work ethic. Because that I found in American dream. So this way things about me. This probably directly upon our growth value for you and your family. Tonight, you're going to try to keep focused that you're doing a good job. So the rest of people success. I'm here to tell you that people raise your tax, maybe the high inflation, they can put me in women's sport. I want to let you know. Record one out to you, 6 years. Think what you're going to do. Don't do it.
Mr. Walker, thank you. Senator Warren, I return now to you for your opening statement. You have 15 seconds.
Thank you so very much. And hello, Georgia. It's so wonderful to be back here in my hometown. Now, I know that we're in a debate tonight, but really I've come with the deep heartfelt gratitude. Probably because I grew up about a mile from here and became all these houses right. I'm one of 12 children in my family. Clearly, my previous parents read the Bible. When I think about the arc of my life, the short distance and the long distance from there to here, I know that only in America is my story possible. My family taught me the importance of hard work and how to build the beloved community that I'm continuing to talk about. And I brought this very success. At the end of the day, this race is about who best will represent Georgia and the U.S. I think that course is clear. And I look forward to having that discussion.
Thank you, Senator Warren. Gentlemen, we have a lot to get to this hour. So we start tonight with the most important issue that you will debate.
Our next door, Emerson County, Brazil, is going to be economy, rights to democracy, and organized those country issues that we get tonight. Everyday food, struggling with gas, child care, housing, street place rate, but ultimately critical blaming President Biden as a Democrat for inflation and the economy. If elected, there's one idea that you would champion to reduce inflation. Yes, this is just a guess.
Well, first of all, everyone is involved within the security different places that work. They are cut off in the field. They also raise taxes. But at the same time, the rest is cheap all our money. So if you see you tonight and say, well, you want a good job for us, and we ask you what one job I would do, help education. First of all, we're talking about education. And the reason why, we're talking about getting it, it has to get more. And that puts us not just in a education problem, but it puts us in a national security problem. And I think that's something that I think Senator Warren did with us. And he mentioned that we grew up here in Savannah with 12 children. Well, in this area, most people here teach education. And we have the question of what the first one, trying to work with our cultural market for the country.
All of us thank you for that, Mr. Walker. I'm just trying to say that cutting government spending on staff that you economic recovery, I was going to ask you, would you consider cutting military funding or spending on social services to accomplish this goal?
I would not have think about the military schools because first I was in peace with the right now, they have a free for the war. I think right now that the war now is Joe Biden and they're also in the street. And we have to protect this country. And I said it earlier on, right now, because we get our enemies or enemies that don't like us, if we look for this, this country,
Walker, Senator Warren, President Biden has taken on this inflation rate level that we haven't seen in 40 years. We've supported nearly every piece of legislation that this administration has pushed through Congress. Do you take any responsibility for the financial hardships currently that Georgia is facing?
yes. There's no question that people are feeling pain at the grocery store, at the office, at pharmacy, and while we are paying record I stood up for 4 years, hard-working Georgia fan. Again, I passed the single largest tax cut, contrary to what my opponent is suggesting. So I'm working private family in American history. And we passed the Inflation Reduction Act, which had two of our provisions. One, kept the cost of prescription drugs to seniors, so they don't have to buy medicine and buy groceries. One kept the cost of this one. He said he would not have voted for the Inflation Reduction Act, and I think he should tell the people before. While he thinks they should have expensive medicine, while the pharmaceutical companies should be able to charge us regularly. Well, personally, to outlive them to do the insulin, but at the same time, you got to eat right. So you may not know, and I know many people are confused. Unless you have eating right, insulin is really no good. And so you have to get food prices right. You've got to get gas out there to go get them. You can truly catch yourself on the back. But right now, families are starving. Right now, families are hurting. They're hurting because people and control is happening. I don't think it's their fault. I think it's one of the problems. This one's been around 100 years. The tax is sold for $1. They're engaged in price gouging. There's too many people involved. I think they work with pharmaceutical companies. I work with who's in one. What we're doing one, and that's why I stand up every day watching it and giving the me. Talk about what you can talk about questions. You said you're in 30 seconds. Your hand up right now. And your attention is the answer. Understanding the gap, and they're talking about option. We've had the Inflation Reduction Act. He's already told you he will get it. He's already told you that he doesn't believe in capping the cost of prescription drugs for people like I don't think they should. I don't think he should have this wrong as like a company. I don't think he should have you buying medicine and buying groceries. That's about set up the earnings, set up the market every single day. But the corporations that are being bad, they're being working on. You get a little look at it. Sports again. Just we need to move on to our next topic. In terms of time, so that's what I think.
All right, Gus, thank you. Senator Warner, this question is for you. You have said the new Georgia voting law implemented after the 2020 election created many obstacles for underserved communities. Yet, there was greater turnout in Georgia in the primary this May. According to research done by the Brennan Center for Justice, the African American vote grew approximately 50% from 2018 primary. Senator, can you explain how the law negatively impacts minority voters?
Vous craignez de ne pas pouvoir produire suffisamment de lait maternel pour les boire? Milkflow peut vous aider. Milkflow travaille de concert avec votre corps pour favoriser la production naturelle de lait maternel. Il contient des herbes et des extraits d'origine naturelle, dont le fenugrec, le chardon d'éni et la mixte. Profitez de 2 délicieuses saveurs pour faciliter votre démarche d'allaitement. Stimulez votre production de lait. Ouvrez d'abord le sachet en le déchirant au niveau de l'entaille. Ensuite, créez une super boisson en mélangeant vigoureusement le contenu du sachet dans le liquide de votre choix. Savourez le bon goût sucré de Milkflow au chocolat ou au riz. Prenez un sachet 3 fois par jour pour un résultat optimal. Vous pouvez également prendre 1 à 3 capsules végétariennes par jour. Stimulez votre production de lait maternel avec Milkflow.
And the walk regarding the win. Thank you very much, Carolyn. Much
born those babies, why are you not baptizing those babies?
God gave us to clarify what my name.
I think it's self-explanatory. God gave us the truth. And I respect the right of us to make a decision. Being a better person, they're deeply Christian. Never find themselves in the name of their mission is their arms to the side. Right now, chaos that is under control of us. Right now, when they facing their scale, something, wondering what to happen, and how will they have to either be problematic or not problematic, how they can. And I don't think just to clarify, you were saying God gave us a choice in what to do. I think it's a parent that God has given us a great gift. And the people of Georgia have a choice right now how to fix it to represent. I try to be very short, because he's correct. God gave us a choice. But also, within the Bible, God said, choose right. In the Bible, it said, I took the choice, just like Adam and Eve had a choice, but they chose death. There's God said, you're choosing walking. I don't think he wants to arrogate the conversation. That's how it's God. All right, now we thank you. We're going to have to move on to our next topic, okay? Tina?
We are moving on, gentlemen, on the next topic, and it is about student loans. Return to Christian debt, college students, and next on the station tour from Lucas World Tour.
As college student leaders, it's important to be my parents and also say something right to cause that public paying officer. In the United States Senate, we support further forgiveness of student loan debt and some housing credit of the United States.
Our thanks to Christian for that question. Senator Warnock, your answer for the 60 seconds.
Everything you need to light up your Christmas spirit. Canadian Tire, Canada's Christmas store.
I would be standing here tonight to work with low interest student loans in California. In the years since I graduated, that town kept coming. I waited to a couple of places. And they always come to me to live in one day son. Said, whatever you do, please, about this weekend. Like I said, I borrowed $35,000, I think that's $40,000, still owed $30,000. That's why I pushed the president to issue that. There was $10,000, which I heard get $20,000 over the Bell Grant, they get right to me. For the Christian homeowners, is and education. Not just four-year college. But we need to do it. We should be doing this in 10 years from now. And I'm working right now on how to reform this because college is our future. The price of education.
Among the questions are, what do you believe is the executive action is set of conflict, and also how does it look at the funding effort?
The president's already moved to reduce student debt relief. And there's additional relief for folks like me who, when they got to the loan, was Pell Grant, other but in some places we need reform in the system so that we can get
First of all, what it should do is these are federal funding of getting college and raise their home. You're going to give your federal funding to get in college and raise their home. That's the first thing.
So that is what you would do. You would do what actually what
Get in college, what any college and raise their home. I would rather do federal funding to get on the
Thank you.
You have no, I'm not an
I'm going to give you this one. I'm going to give you half.
I would be very.
Very good.
It's a community that folks who have been crying about that haven't said anything about it. Won't be doing it there. We got it. I wonder why this
We're going to move on. We're moving on. Thank you. Thank you, Senator Warren. Your time is up. Mr. Walker, we are moving on. We're going to move on to minimum wage. Gentlemen, we have a lot to get through tonight. Let's make that clear as we talk about the hour. So let's get to the question that you can't get because Georgia voters want to know where you stand on these issues. They have different issues. Let me know tonight. Fun.
Thank you, Steve. And according to the U.S. Census Bureau, 14% of Georgia is living poverty. Federal minimum wage is $7.25 an hour. Number is not free. $60,000. But it is by show the pages. Raise your hand if you support a federal tax. Okay, Mr. Walker, you did not raise your hand, so I'd like to ask you first of all, why not? What would you do to help us? Well, we just say federal. I think right now, I would consider this every people. Right now, I'm going to get a corporation to see where they can be. There's some companies right now, that's giving them also being moved out of land. They support a lot of smaller businesses. So those smaller businesses still pay $15, $20 an hour. And so they take the work. So it mandates the federal education. They have to pay hourly wage. Thank you, Mr. Walker. But Senator Warren, you did not raise your hand. So why not? And what would you do? I believe in the dignity. I believe in the dignity of work. Watch my dad work really hard and get it. And I've seen what was involved with the system work on the front line. Stand up for us to get it. Because in terms of working for career, in terms of wage, in terms of in other words, workers deserve to participate in the prosperity that they are creating for others. And so, I've been a part of those conversations around minimum wage. I think you can be a living for it. And some of that is being addressed right now in this labor market. I'm willing to work with this community as well as the labor community. So let's figure out how we get through this labor. There's no question people deserve to participate in the prosperity that we're creating for us. We should deliver the labor, and they deserve to participate. Senator Walker, which our next time we get to.
And that topic is crime and violence. In June, Congress passed the first bipartisan legislation to combat gun violence in 30 years. According to a new recent poll released in July, 78% of Americans think the new gun law will do little or nothing to reduce gun violence. Senator Warren, I'm just going to do you first. As the number of shootings in Georgia and across the nation continue to rise, what should be done? What should the next step be to solve this issue? You have to answer this question, sir.
Well, I'm glad that we finally passed the first gun safety law in 30 years. And we did that on a bipartisan basis. I believe that this law will indeed save lives. And I'd like to see us work. And this is what we can achieve beyond that on a bipartisan basis. My heart goes out when I see the kinds of tragedies that we're witnessing all across the state, all across our country. And it's the reason why I have passed legislation to support law enforcement. I've passed the largest investment in Congress work program in a decade. I introduced legislation called Veteran Protect that's endorsed by the sheriffs of Burke County and Frederick County. Because it's enforced by our smaller black, they're gonna have my back. So this is the say they have to own the name of the
Mr. Walker, thank you. I have a follow-up now. I will give you the opportunity, 15 seconds to respond to Senator Warnock.
We will see how we got to get the right story. That my opponent has problems with it. And just because he said something doesn't mean it's true. I have supported our police officers. I call them and I pray with their families. They go officers involved in the conflict. And they were killed. Doing what police officers do. You can support police officers that have done the cop program, the investment, the protect program, while at the same time holding police officers like officers accountable. One thing I have not done, I've never pretended to be a police officer. And I